Well, everyone, welcome to week 8 of Hug It Out. This is our online place to connect and restore during COVID-19. It's been a delight to have you. You've been my lifeline on Wednesday evenings, and these evenings have been possibly because we've had these really amazing therapists and healers come forward who want to give their time to us.
Wow.
So what a blessing it has been. And tonight, one of my great teachers is joining us. Her name is Lynn Morrison. Lynn is, oh my gosh, where do I even start? So she is the co-founder of the Seattle Hakomi Education Network. And this is where I did my certification in Hakomi. And I met her in a level 1 class. And when I started the level 1s in Hakomi, one of the greatest things I remember is the profound sense of human that is there. And I didn't even have the language. I was like, there's something about these people that I want more of. I want more about how they're holding. Like I speak like such a Hakomi person at this point, but this is not how I would have spoke at the very beginning. But there was something about the warmth and then tenderness, and that everything about me showing up was fine the way I was, versus a model where I felt like I was broken and I needed fixing and I needed figuring out. And it felt so good and so relaxing. So in one of the level 1s, I remember meeting Lynn, and I loved how she held space. I loved her trusting and patience in people and in the group as a whole. I loved her tenderness when bigger things would come up. I loved how tenderly she held people with her voice and with her body and with her eyes. And then I dropped into a study group with her, and the exercises she brought us through were so simple, but mind-blowingly profound. So anyway, I'm a big fan of Lynn. Lynn, thank you for coming tonight and being willing to join us and really prepare a very special exercise for us about going deeper into COVID, which no one says, yes, I want to do that. So Lynn, thank you so much for coming tonight, this morning.
Thanks so much for inviting me. And I think what you were saying about people showing up and wanting to do something, I don't know about any of you, but one of the biggest impacts on me of COVID is really having such an incredible sense of my privilege. I mean, I'm sheltering in place on 5 acres on Whidbey Island. I mean,
yeah.
And I go to the grocery store, and yes, there's lines and masks and gloves and all of that. But I'm reading about what's happening in the rest of the world. And so the opportunity to do something that can be helpful, and that maybe by being helpful, there might be a ripple out effect, is really appealing to me, because that's been the biggest challenge for me, is just looking around at the beauty that I live in and knowing how rare that is right now around the world, and seeing some neighborhoods that I know well and seeing what's going on there. So there you go. COVID is a different experience for all of us, but there is something that I have noticed during this period of time. And I've talked to other therapists, and they've had a similar experience, which is that many of my clients are moving through issues that have been long-standing, that they have not been able to get through, that they have not been able to see a way around. I mean, it's incredibly inspiring. So I'll just give you a couple of examples, and that's really where I came up with this idea. Is one of my clients came to me because she was wanting to leave her relationship. And she came with her partner for a while, and then she's been coming one-on-one. And we're continuing. We're doing this telemedicine. We're doing this the same way I'm coming to you today. And through this period of time, something is starting to shift. Something is starting to open. Something is really moving in her relationship. So that's one example. Another example is one of my clients who has always been really comfortable working alone, and she's very good at what she does, but she hasn't been comfortable working in groups. And now all of a sudden she's on these teams online, and they're co-creating things. And she's really shifted into this whole new way of operating. And then the third client is a woman who has been working through childhood incest. And during COVID, she has managed to bring her entire family together, and they are working through it as a family. Now, these are not small things. None of these are small things. And they are not things I would have expected when this started. But I'm seeing something. And what I have learned in some of I study Buddhism. I didn't tell you a lot about who I am. I mean, I'm a teacher, I'm a therapist, I'm a coach, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a grandmother, I'm a writer, I'm a photographer. I love to create. And to me, the process that we're going to do tonight is exactly about that. It's about creating. So here's the idea. In Buddhism, the idea is we turn up the heat. So meditation retreats, that's why people go on meditation retreats, because you're confined in this space. Does it sound familiar? And there are not a lot of distractions. And so you can't get away with what's going on. What's going on is what always goes on, right? It's what's always going on. We have these unconscious patterns, unconscious habits that have been laid down from when we were very tiny. And some of them work, and some of them are very limiting, and they create unnecessary suffering in our lives. So on meditation retreats, the idea is, okay, in this space, not a lot of distractions, and then you notice the things. You notice those things that are habitual, unconscious, and that are making your life not work as well as it could. It's creating suffering in a relationship. It's creating suffering in your relationship with yourself. It's creating suffering in terms of how you do your work or how you feel about your work. And so we've turned up the heat, not on purpose, but every one of us are in a confined space compared to our usual lives. Every one of us have less distractions. I mean, except for this, of course, the screens. But you and I know you can only do that for a certain amount of time every day. It's exhausting. So you are left to yourself and the people you're in close proximity with. And so you might be noticing some things. You might be noticing some things about how you move through life. So I'm going to actually have you kind of settle into a quieter space right now, and then I'm going to have you do a very simple exercise that might help you identify something that's showing up right now in your lives in this, more confined, in this situation of the heat being turned up. So right now, just take a moment and see if you can bring your attention inside. It might be helpful to close your eyes. And I'm going to recommend that you bring your attention to your low belly. And imagine that you're breathing into and out from your low belly. Just allowing your belly to get round. Nobody can see you below the screen, so just let your stomach pooch out as much as you need to, as far as you can, actually. And then just let it go. So breathing in, allowing your belly to expand as much as you can do it without straining. And now I want you to imagine from this quiet place that over to your right is sitting COVID. And I don't mean everything having to do with COVID, but the way COVID is being represented in your life. Just imagine it's over to your right. It might be the threat to your health. It might be the threat to your way of living. It might be the threat to somebody else's health that you care deeply about. Whatever is being represented by COVID, just imagine it's over to your right. And now very slowly in your mind's eye, start moving your gaze towards COVID. Just kind of slowly start moving your gaze in your mind's eye and just watch what happens in your body. Are there physical things going on? Are there emotional things going on? Just notice whatever comes up, and then go ahead and bring your vision back to the front again. And just sit with whatever has come up. Just see what it is. Take a moment to study it just a little bit. Are there body sensations? Is there something going on in your belly or your shoulders or your throat? Are there any thoughts or ideas running through your mind? Are there any kind of incipient emotions? Fear or grief or anger, frustration? Just notice whatever is there. And now I'm going to ask Jendi to put you in breakout rooms for just 5 minutes. So that gives you like 2.5 minutes each to share with your partner whatever came up for you in relationship to COVID, and then what your reaction was about it. So in 5 minutes, we'll come back here, and I'd like to hear what happened for you. We're going to take a moment now, and I'm going to ask you to give us kind of a 10-word summary of what you discovered. I mean, there's a lot to it, but if you were to say, what is the kernel? What is the kernel of what your response to COVID was, and how that kind of felt in your body, whether it was emotion, sensation, thoughts, all of the above, but kind of the executive summary.
For me, it was just fear of instability, which caused anxiety. And I think I wanted to lash out with my arms because I had pain in my elbows, and something in me maybe wanted to punch or hit, or I definitely felt something physical in conjunction with the anxiety.
Thanks, Lori. And then Keelan?
Frustration. I think that just came right to my mind. I already did a Feed Your Demons practice on this, Lynn. And it just, that's a practice where you just kind of picture your demon. Here it's so easy to do, but you end up facing your demon and feeding your demon to try to sort of take it on. But anyway, so mostly frustration at just how far we have to go to try to deal with this, and how hard it is to do with the whole world being involved.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Big. It's really big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, I am working through some chronic body pain issues in the lower back that's shown up again from time to time. And I've been able to recognize that it's grief related, and I didn't associate until tonight that it's also COVID grief related. So it's a personal and a global grief that I'm connecting to, and sitting with that, I was able to relax the body and relax those muscles, and I was able to feel a lot better. So that was really great. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Tasha. That makes so much sense. I mean, even if it's not anyone you know directly, it's out there. People are dying and people's lives are being impacted. Yeah. Thanks. Anyone else? Theo.
So I had a slightly evil pumpkin sitting next to me. And it was basically just the embodiment of uncertainty. I know uncertainty exists conceptually, but this is like uncertainty writ large.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Do you notice it any place in your body, or more other?
My throat.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Really helps. Okay. So Brad.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it felt sort of like tapping into something that has been there, and I felt it more strongly when I put my attention on it, but I'm like, oh yeah, this is so familiar. I've been feeling this way for 6.5 weeks now. And it really, but I hadn't located it really in my body. And so it's sort of like the left side of my chest down, all the way down to my belt line on that side. And it's just kind of it's like a mix. It's subtle. So it's not, I don't feel as upset. Like something shifted a little bit in May where it's not as bothersome as it was, but it definitely feels like there's a kind of frustration, a little hopelessness, a little bit of shame and guilt because I'm not maybe making the very best use of my time now that I have all this unstructured time. So yeah, it's just kind of like, this just sucks. I don't know. It's just kind of a
Kind of like being on hold, it sounds like. Your life is kind of on hold.
Yeah, it's like it's interesting, like trying to remember, like, who was I before that? And some of that's coming back, and I'm getting a little bit of my passion and like, hey, what I do does matter, and it's worth just spending my time and putting in hard work. But I'm just coming out of that really pointlessness, and I'm like, wow, and for the first time for me, I used to smoke a lot of weed when I was a kid, and for the first time, like a couple weeks ago, I was like, man, maybe I'll just go get stoned. And I don't know, like for me personally, that just hasn't really been my thing for a long time, but it occurred to me, like, why not? Like I have, I'm not depressed, but, and I'm certainly come out of it. But yeah, so just that ickiness is still kind of there, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
And really, it does feel like something that I want to medicate with something, whatever that thing is. Yeah.
Hard to be with. It's just hard to be with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the things that you're pointing at are really, we've pretty much covered the territory other than the people who are being more directly impacted in terms of a family member or a neighbor or, or themselves or someone else actually being in the hospital. So, but I'm sure as this continues, that will be the case for most of us. I mean, I actually only know one person at this point that, died from COVID. And I have a pretty extensive network. So, but I'm sure that's not going to be the way it'll end up by the time we finish this. So what all of you are pointing at are completely valid ways of responding, completely valid ways of being right now, given what's going on in the world. And what I'm really wanting to do is two things in terms of how do we then take this thing that you're dealing with that's very uncomfortable, that's hard to live with, that's hard to even touch into for any period of time. Is there any way we can use that to move forward? Is there any way that we can work with it? Is it workable? I mean, that's kind of the question, because very few of us have, if any of us have ever dealt with something this widespread in the world. I mean, the 2008, yes, but people weren't dying. There was an economic impact, but people weren't dying. And the politics were not so crazy, so that whole political world security issue was not as big. So how do we do that? Because truthfully, there are things that we can do, and there's a lot that we can't do. However, our state, moment to moment, day to day, makes a difference in terms of whether we decide to go get stoned or whether we decide to actually find something to do with this time, which then, oddly enough, might make a difference in how we feel. But how do we deal with that initial experience that all of us are carrying. So I'm going to actually walk you through another exercise. And this is an exercise that comes from the Tibetan tradition. It was at one time a very esoteric tradition. And then Pema Chodron, God lover, decided to make it public, decided to just share it with the world because it's so powerful. And some of you, or maybe many of you, have already done this exercise. So it's not so mysterious and esoteric anymore. And it's called Tonglen. But I want to tell you why we're doing it. First of all, there's a lot going on out in the world. So having the reaction you're having, there's no shame, there's no blame. It's completely understandable. Then the second thing is, you might even be having a reaction to your reaction. So first, maybe you have the fear, or you have the grief, or you have whatever reaction you have, and then you have like some kind of judgment about yourself for having that reaction, for, kind of losing your motivation, or feeling depressed, or being scared, or whatever it is that all of us are feeling. Then we just get caught in suppressing it. And then it comes out in physical ways or behavioral ways that may not be very helpful. So we're going to do something different. Each one of us right now are going to go back to that uncomfortable feeling that you noticed when you did that looking over to the right. You're going to go back to that feeling. Frustration, fear, guilt, shame, uncertainty, whatever it is. And right now, I want you to just breathe that experience into your body. Breathe it in. And then breathe out whatever that experience might need to feel a little more at ease. So it might just be understanding. It might just be compassion. It might just be acknowledging that it's there. And you can continue to explore as you're doing this. So breathe the feeling in and breathe out what you think it needs. And you can experiment until you seem to get the one that feels right. Maybe it needs spaciousness. Maybe it needs understanding or kindness. And then breathing in the uncomfortable feeling. Just take it all the way in and breathe out what it needs. Friendliness, understanding, compassion, spaciousness. And then breathing it in and breathe out what it needs. And now I'm going to have you shift just a little bit. And this time when you breathe in that feeling, the uncertainty or the frustration or the grief or the fear. Breathe it in for all the people on the planet that are feeling that right now. Everyone on the planet that is feeling that. Breathe it in for all of those people. And breathe out what they need, including you. What do these people need? Breathe it out into the world. So breathing in the feeling breathing in the uncomfortable feeling for all the people in the world that are feeling that, and breathing out what they need. Yeah, breathing in for all the people in the world that are feeling grief, for all the people in the world that are feeling uncertainty, for all the people in the world that want to medicate, and then breathe out what they need. Compassion, acknowledgement, space, understanding, whatever it is that they need. And now shifting back to yourself and your own feeling, letting go of the rest of the world for now, and just shifting back to your own experience. Breathe that in again, and breathe out what it needs. Breathe in that uncomfortable feeling, and breathe out what it needs. And now just pause, just staying inside, and just notice whatever is there now. And now when you're ready, go ahead and wiggle your fingers and toes and come back into the room. And I think we can do our check-in as a whole group this time, to stay in the group. And so just taking a moment to kind of crystallize your experience, and then just let Jendi know to unmute you so we can hear how that was for you. Hi, Lori.
So my fear was coming from the feeling of instability, because nothing is stable right now, financially, health-wise, nothing is stable. And so I was breathing in instability and breathing out safety. I thought if everybody could just feel safe, safe financially, safe physically, safe education-wise, that's it,
Yeah.
safety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's kind of interesting when you recognize that safety might be in a different form than what it has been. We don't know what it's going to look like. And it could still be safety. So that sounds brilliant, actually. Did that calm your system? Did your system kind of...
It did. I didn't realize how much it was affecting me. I'm in the hospital every day.
Yeah.
Somehow, maybe that was a worrisome thing, but never really came to the forefront of my mind. It was just doing a job.
Yeah. 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 I'm so glad you got a chance to do this, Lori.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
I really noticed that even just like a little bit right there, that like after I realized I was trying to focus on one specific feeling I was getting, and then at the end, it finally hit me that I'm feeling everything. And so I'm really all over the place and I'm not grounded even a little bit. And I'm really noticing how less and less present I keep getting the past couple of days. And I know it has to do with sleep and everything too. So this is amazing for me. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and I just want to say, if you have access to a smartphone, there is an app called Insight Timer that has a lot of meditations on it. That it sounds like it would be helpful, even if you could just do it for a couple of minutes a day, to just kind of help you, because the problem with what you're describing is that it just builds, right?
Yes.
And then your sleep starts getting interrupted, and then it can just get a lot worse. So anything you can do, just even 3 to 5 minutes a day, to start helping your system settle itself. And I know that's hard with 3 kids on your own, so it might be tricky to figure out when and how, but it's important for your health and theirs, actually.
Yes, for sure. And that's what I've been noticing is that they're reflecting off of me like crazy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I just want to figure it out so that like I can help. But then at the same time, it goes so unconscious that it's like I'm just kind of reacting and not like whatever the opposite of that is.
Yes. Humans, our nervous systems are, interconnected.
Yes.
So even if you have animals, they will do the same thing. If you start going like this, then your animals will be the same way. So yeah, that'll be a clue. They can be a clue for you that you need to do a little bit more to help your system calm down.
That is so amazing. I don't actually own animals, but this farm that I rent, there's horses and they're usually so chill. And they've been coming up to me lately and kind of like snuffing at me, like, come on. And I've been like, what are you trying to tell me? And so I keep like trying to sit there and figure it out. And then I'm like, man, they're really coming up to me a lot. I think I'm doing kind of good with this whole Mother Nature thing, but they're like legit just going crazy.
Yeah, horses, and they can all help you to calm down. I mean, yes. we can regulate our systems with any sentient being.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. Who else? Yeah.
I'll go. Hey. So what I noticed was that the physical sensation, as we went from individual to global to back to individual, kind of concentrated into a ball in the back of my throat, which is often where I hold things. And then at the end, when we had stopped, but we were just kind of trying to sit with the feeling, say that it disappeared, but the nature of it had kind of become less threatening or something. It kind of calmed. So it was interesting. It was just like energy kind of was a little bit nebulous and then came to this pretty strong point and then softened at the end. So yeah, it was nice.
That just gives me so many ideas of how to work with it. I could take the rest of the time just talking about that. So I will follow up. But one idea.
You have my number.
I have your number. But just so other people can get the benefit of that, you can dialogue with a sensation. So if you have a sensation in your body, you can dialogue with it. That's one thing you can do. You just journal. Ask it questions and it'll answer. And another thing you can do with that's really powerful is you consciously make it stronger and then relax it and stronger and relax it And it will bring up material that'll help you understand what this is, what it's related to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting because the other aspect of the practice was that whereas initially it felt a little like when we did the exercise with the COVID on our right, it was a little bit more about uncertainty. And as I started the practice, it became more about fear of the ramifications of the uncertainty. It was more threatening than it had been originally.
Yeah. Perfect. And so the opportunity here is through working with these sensations, you can shift your relationship to uncertainty. Because what will happen if you stay with it, you'll begin to discover your personal history. And then you can actually have a different relationship with uncertainty. Not overnight. I mean, there's some work involved, but thanks. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Tasha.
Well, sitting with this heaviness and I associate it with grief, and it feels kind of dark and heavy on one side. And it brought up some emotion, which I think is really healthy, but it felt a little bit overwhelming, and just I was giving it love and compassion, and that helped. And it's a good place to work, I think. So I think it's helpful for me to listen to that. And it's kind of icky because it's uncomfortable, but that's okay. And just to get back to Insight Timer, I have 3 children as well, and they love the Yoga Nidra for sleep for kids. There's a lot of them, and it's really helpful at nighttime, just for everybody. It helps everybody. I do it with them sometimes.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Great. And I want to just give you a quick little thing to do if you're working with something and it becomes overwhelming. You can actually ask it to not overwhelm you. You can just let the experience know that you're going to stay with it and you're going to comfort it, but you need for it to not overwhelm you. And it will still be there, but it will mellow out a little bit so you can continue to be present and compassionate with it.
Thank you.
Sounds crazy, but it works.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Keelan or Brad? Keelan. Okay.
Yeah, I found this to be helpful. It does, the Tonglen is incredible and reminds me of Feed Your Demons, and so it's a good jump off point for continuing to work with that stuff. I mean, when I thought about the world, I felt like ease and comfort was something that I could give to the world, but that feels like a long ways away right now for people. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you're kind of demonstrating the other side of having a big heart. All this work we do to have more open hearts, and then COVID comes, right? I mean,
right.
Who knew?
Who knew there would be all this work to do on that?
I know, it's really, gee.
Yeah. I do have my daughter Claire, who is a hospital worker. So I think whatever things we talked about in this tonight just reminded me that I do have somebody right in my heart who I'm worried about. Yeah.
Thanks, Dylan.
Yeah.
I thought that too. Yeah. So that does bring it in closer for sure.
It does. She's doing better, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Keelan.
Yes.
Yeah. That was the only time that I was kind of crazy during this, is when that guy and his wife had what looked like COVID and they couldn't get tested and stuff. And I was a little crazy for a while. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There's not real good answers.
No.
Another source. I think that's the main frustrating thing I see, is just the lack of progress, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So how about you, Brad?
Yeah, I think for me, like Theo, I noticed that the discomfort turned into almost kind of like pain, and it was sort of concentrated in my chest, actually, and it was really pinpointed. And I thought that was interesting, and I was just quite uncomfortable. And I found that it sort of stayed until I opened up more to connecting with other people in my same feeling the same way I was, and, you know, what do we all need? And it's kind of hard for me to pinpoint what that thing was exactly that I was exhaling, but there was just the feeling of connection was really important. And I think so for me to feel connected with other people, like, it's not just an abstract thing that, yeah, everybody's going through it, blah, 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 and next topic, but actually to feel that was different. And then I think also for me to connect with my own meditation practice, it's sort of like the times when I sit are sort of connected up, and it goes back to when I started the practice. And there's sort of like a stillness or a stability that I was connecting to there as well. And I had the realization, part of my resistance to using this time to just like do a ton of meditation is it doesn't really fit with the script of my life of just starting my business. And I was using meditation to sort of augment essentially my performance, quote unquote, but really like to just be more present in my life for a time when I really need to be present for my life. And this is opening up a time where it's less goal directed, and I've been so goal directed, and I just realized that doing this practice that I really haven't accepted this time as a time where it will be most beneficial for me to allow myself to shift out of a really goal oriented, you gotta put yourself out there and do all the things and have courage and lean into all this discomfort. I think I just have to slow down and not then scurry around like, I don't know. So it was good. It was good. I'm not out of it in terms of the discomfort, but it helped me to see why this time has been particularly difficult, because it really doesn't fit any script for where I was going to be. Today I'm supposed to be in Portland presenting at a conference, and that's been long since canceled. So I have to like work with myself, and I struggle at times with it. So, but this was helpful for me.
Good. Yeah, that would be a big shift, just to somehow accept the reality of what is right now. I mean, it's not all of those things you thought you were going to be doing. It's something else. And so how to be with that. Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you. It was great.
Okay, so I think we're at our end here, but of course, I'm a Hakomi person, and Hakomi people cannot do even an hour long anything without reading a poem.
Oh, good. You're going to do that.
We've got to have a poem.
Yes.
Okay. So, and of course, now when you're my age, you don't worry about looking silly, even on screen, even on video. So I'm going to have to use my double glasses. My family makes fun of me, but then I can read the poem. Okay, there we go. This is my version of bifocals. And it's called We Waste So Much Energy by Mark Nepo. We waste so much energy trying to cover up who we are, when beneath every attitude is the one to be loved, and beneath every anger is a wound to be healed. And beneath every sadness is the fear that there will not be enough time. Our challenge each day is not to get dressed to face the world, but to unglove ourselves so that the doorknob feels cold and the car handle feels wet, and the kiss goodbye feels like the lips of another being, soft and unrepeatable. Okay. This has been fun. Really been nice to spend some time with you, and I'm actually really glad this got videotaped, because I had a bunch of people that said they wanted to be here, but they had other things in the way, so they can participate on their own, and that feels really rich.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Lynn.
Lynn, thank you so much. What a
Yeah.
delight
great.
having you. Thank you for your great gift tonight.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right. Be well.